All right, Shalom, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Ka Halayim La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ha, Rakak, Wadash Mama. I want to give a double honor to the elder apostles of GMS. Salutations to the sincere Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. I'm the Kar Karab Bani Yasharala, coming out of the Lions Den camp of Yasharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. And today I'll be coming out with a little quick lesson. I won't be before you too long. But title of this lesson is Guide Your Children. And this lesson came about when I was watching, I think it was BBC World News. And these Edomites, these so-called white people, they are now trying to make it they've passed a law already over there like South Wales and in Australia and Norway and all those places where those Edomites dwell at, those so-called white, where they dwell at. It is now a crime to spank your child. They're trying to push a law where it's a crime to spank your child, to chastise your child. But the scriptures say that you're supposed to train your child up. You're supposed to chastise them when they get out of line. But Esau is trying to make this illegal. He's trying to make this a literal crime. Over there, certain laws have been pushed already where it is now a crime to spank your child. And you know how Esau do. When he see his counterparts, doing different things, he gonna jump on the ball. He gonna go right. He gonna jump right on the ball with it. He gonna jump on the bandwagon, for lack of a better term. But without further ado, I'm gonna get right into the scriptures and let them speak for themselves. This is Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. It says, "He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes." See, when you spare the rod, that means you hate your son. When you don't chastise your children, when you don't guide your children in the right way, and you don't show them their wrongdoings when they go off, the scriptures say that you hate your son or you hate your children when you don't chastise them. This is but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. When you love your child, you're gonna chastise your child. You're gonna correct your child when they go out of line, when they get off, and go out of pocket of different things like that. But Esau, these Edomites, these so-called white people, they don't believe in the scriptures. So they're not gonna follow what the Heavenly Father says. Well, it says in this scriptures, he that spareth his rod, mean that rod means an instrument for punishment, a whooping stick or strap or whatever. When you spare your rod, you hate your son. You don't love your son. But when you love your child, when you chastise them, show them their wrongdoings and lead them in the right way. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to guide your children. That's the title of this lesson, by the way, if I didn't mention that earlier. Guide your children is the title of this lesson. And you're supposed to chastise your children, to show them if they have done wrong. This is Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. It says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." You train up your child in the right way, which is this truth. You train them up under Yahweh Yahweh Shai. And when they get old, they will not depart from it. When your children grow up and grow into adults and to grow old, they won't depart from this truth. You're supposed to raise your children up in righteousness and truth and wisdom and teach them and show them the right way. So when they grow up and become adults, they won't depart from this way. And when they have children, they'll teach their children the same thing. So you're supposed to guide your children. You're supposed to chastise your children. You're not supposed to abuse your child and beat the hell out of them every time they do something wrong. You ain't supposed to go upside their head, but you still supposed to issue that correction. Sometimes chastisement doesn't necessarily mean a physical touch. Sometimes you could raise your voice. Sometimes it's a look. Sometimes it's a sit down and talk thing. But nonetheless, chastisement is chastisement, and we're supposed to guide our children. This is the same chapter, Proverbs 22, verse 15. It says, "Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him." A child is going to do mischievous things. That's why the Heavenly Father says foolishness is bound. A child gonna do something wrong somewhere down the line. It's bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction, guidance, will drive it far from that child. They will teach that child what not to do and what to do. So we're supposed to guide our children. Esau, he want to pass laws, over there in Britain and all them other places where he's taken over at, it's now illegal to chastise your child. It's a criminal offense to chastise your child over there. Even so much as a little tap, it's a criminal offense now. And Esau, he's like, well, we just want to teach our children that violence against children is not right. No, 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 no. You're supposed to chastise your child. You're supposed to show them. You're supposed to guide them. How are they going to know what's wrong or what's right if you don't teach them? But continue. Sirach chapter 7. Shalakia, verse 23. It says, "Hast thou children? Instruct them, and bow down their neck from their youth. If you have any kids, instruct them. Teach them while they're young. Show them the right and wrong ways while they're young. Show them this truth. Guide them in Yahweh Shai while they're young. Bow down their neck," meaning guide them the right way while they are young. So when they do grow up, they won't be hard-headed little bastards. It is what it is. You're supposed to guide your children. You're supposed to teach our children. You're supposed to just let them run rampant. Sirach chapter 30. You don't guide your children, somebody else gonna do it for you. And the correction that comes from somebody else, you might not like it. But continuing. This is Sirach chapter 30. I'm going to start at verse 1. "He that loveth his son causeth him oft to feel the rod, that he may have joy of him in the end." See, when you love your son, you're gonna chastise your child. You're gonna chastise your son. You're gonna show your children the way that they should go often, so that they will not go off. So that you may have joy of that son or that daughter or children in the end. Verse 2. "He that chasteth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance." See, when you guide your child, when you show your children what to do, you're gonna have joy of them in the end, down the road when they become adults. You're gonna be able to sit back amongst your acquaintances and be like, "Yeah, I raised my child the right way. I raised my son or my daughter the right way." But Esau, he trying to walk contrary to this. So guess what? He's gonna have a whole bunch of they already devils anyway. So guess what? Now you're gonna have a whole bunch of hard-headed little demon children running around that can't take chastisement. That's what's wrong with Jake right now. A man not being in the house issuing chastisement when the child goes off. So when they get correction, when they get a certain age, they don't know how to take it. But as you know, that's Esau's doing by taking the man out of the house, taking the authoritative figure, the guide, out of the house. So now you have a bunch of children that grow up into adults who don't know how to follow instruction, nor do they know how to take instruction. But again, when you chastise your child and you guide your child the right way, you're going to have joy in the end among them. And you're going to be able to boast amongst your acquaintances, "Yeah, I raised my child the right way. I raised my son up the right way. He know right from wrong. He know what is good and what isn't." You'll be able to use that. You'll be able to boast. Not being prideful boasting, but just like, "Yeah, I raised my son up or my daughter, my children up the right way." Among your acquaintances. It says, "He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy." See, when you teach your children right from wrong, that make Esau mad, because he can't put that foolishness in their la'ah. If you're teaching them and showing them the right way, that grieves Esau, these Edomites, these so-called white people. "Before his friends he shall rejoice of him." Again, "He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him." See, when you teach your son, your children, your daughter, you grieve the enemy. You grieve Esau. When your children know, when you teach your children how to act and what's right from wrong, you grieve them, because they can't come with their BS. These Edomites, these so-called white people, can't come with their BS when you teach your children. And amongst your friends, if you have any children, you'll be like, "Yes, I teach my children. I have taught my children the right way." And you'll be able to have joy and glory in that. Verse 4. "Though
his father die, yet he is as though he were not dead, for he hath left one behind him that is like himself. See, when you teach your children in the right way, which is this truth, the knowledge, the wisdom of Yahweh Yahushua, when that father dies, guess what? It's just like that father is not there, because he leave one that's just like him behind, that's walking in the same righteous path that he is walking in, of that father is walking in. Verse 5, while he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful. See, while you live and you teaching your children the right way, while you live, you're going to joy. You're going to glory that they understand and know right from wrong, that they know this truth. And when the father dies, you know, that son is not going to be sorrowful that that father died. I mean, of course, you know, you're going to be sad or whatever. You know, the children will be sad. But there's not going to be any long-standing grief. Why? Because that child is going to understand, like, yeah, my father taught me the right way. He taught me the best way, which is the knowledge of Yahweh Yahweh Shai, the wisdom, and how to act and how to live. Verse 6, he left behind him an avenger against his enemy. See, when you teach your children and say you pass off, you pass away, you die and go on to the spirit realm, go back to the Heavenly Father, guess what? You're going to leave behind you an avenger, somebody that's walking in your footsteps, that's going to go against the enemy. Who is our enemy? These Edomites, these so-called white people, period. And they not white, they red. Again, verse 6, he left behind him an avenger against his enemies, one that shall requite kindness to his friends. See, that child is going to show kindness to his friends and be an avenger towards the enemy. But when you doing too much, this is what happened. This is verse 7. But he that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry. See, when you giving your children too much, every little whim, and guess what? Every time, mama, daddy, you going to come running. Every time your child get hurt or whatever, I won't say get hurt, but every time your child cry out, you know, you give them too much, guess what? Every time they cry, you're going to go running. And your bowels are going to be troubled at their cries when you put too much emphasis on your children. You're supposed to guide your children. You are the leader. You're not your children's friend. But nonetheless, father-son, father-daughter relationships and everything, you're gonna show yourself kind and friendly towards your child, but you are not your child's friend. But when you give your children too much, when you make too much of your son, you know, you ever been growing up and you had that so-called one friend that could never ever do no wrong. He was the baddest one out of the group. Every time something go down, his dad or his mom, oh, it ain't my son, it ain't my son. And the son be the catalyst or the main cause of whatever bad situation that is. Well, when you give too much, guess what? You're gonna come when your child, you know, cries out or holler, your bowels are gonna be troubled every time at their cries. You're gonna come running. So you have to lead your children. Verse 8. A horse not broken becometh headstrong, and a child left to himself will be willful. See, a horse not broken becometh headstrong. Let's say you got a wild horse. Well, if you don't train that horse and break that horse in, it's going to become headstrong. That horse is going to buck every time. The same thing with children. You leave them to themselves, they will become willful. They'll do anything they will and want to do. And they'll be hard-headed, disrespectful, and don't want to listen. So you got to guide your children. It says, conquer thy child, meaning put them in order, and he shall make thee afraid. Play with him, and he will bring thee to heaven. See, when as verse 7, when you doing too much and you trying to be friends with your child and all that stuff, it'll get to a point where you'll be scared to chastise your own child. You play with your child, guess what? That child gonna bring you to heaven. That child gonna bring you to shame. That child gonna get out there outside of your covering, outside of your roof, and go slap crazy and do something that's gonna bring shame and embarrass you. Verse 10. Laugh not with him, lest thou have sorrow with him, and lest thou gnash thy teeth in the end. See, don't, as I said, don't be playing with your child like they're your friend. You are the father, they are the child. You are the mother, they are the child. They are not on the same level as you. So if you laughing and kiki and kaka and playing with them like they're on your level, guess what? You're going to have sorrow. When they do something, it's going to shame the fire you. You're going to feel all kind of which ways wrong. You know what I'm saying? You're going to gnash your teeth in the end. You're going to be mad and angry with your child. It says, give him no liberty in his youth, and wink not at his follies. Don't let your child do any and everything they want to do. You're supposed to guide them and let them know. You're supposed to show them the right ways and the wrong ways. You ain't supposed to be letting them do whatever they want to do, letting them talk back and run their mouth and all. Nah. If you are told or instruct, if you're real men, real fathers are going to instruct their child, and that's just it. I've told you, and this is what's going to happen. If you don't want to do this, then there's a chastisement coming for being disobedient. Simple. And you don't wink at a child's folly. When they do something wrong and stupid, you don't turn your head. You don't wink at them. Oh, legit. No. Correct them. Guide them. Show them like, no, that's wrong. Don't do that. Verse 12. Bow down his neck while he is young, and beat him on the sides while he is a child, lest he wax stubborn, and be disobedient unto thee, and so bring sorrow to thine heart. See, you guide your child while they're young. You put that rod on them while they're young. You show them the right way while they're young, the correct way while they're young. Guide them. And if you don't do that, guess what? They're going to wax stubborn. They're going to get hard-headed, disrespectful, and disobedient unto you. And they're going to bring sorrow to your heart. They're going to be out here doing all kind of which ways wrong, because you ain't leading them and guiding them. They're going to talk back, talk trash, and everything. Some of them might even bow up and buck up like, what you going to do? What are you going to do? So this lesson is, guide your child. Last verse of this chapter. It says, chastise thy son and hold him to labor, lest his lewd behavior be an offense unto thee. Chastise your child and hold them to the labor of doing right, walking on a correct path, unless the lewdness of his behavior be an offense unto you, lest they do something disrespectful that's just going to offend you and make you mad with them. So yeah, we supposed to guide our children, but you know, Esau making laws over there in South Wales and Norway and all them other retarded places where Esau like to be, where he is inhabiting. It's now a crime to chastise your child. Well, it's a judgment for children that's being hard-headed and disobedient. My last 2 points. This is Exodus chapter 20. Of course, you already know what it is. It's a commandment for you children that's watching. This is Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. It says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord Yahweh thy God, thy power giveth thee. So you children, y'all got to be obedient. Y'all got to fall in line under the father, under the parents. You must obey your father and your mother so that your days will be long upon the earth, because a hard-headed child don't live long. They die quick. The Lord ain't playing with nobody. He is of no respect of persons. He will judge you if you be disobedient. Last point. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 2. It says, honor thy father, again, honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. The promise is long days upon the earth. That's the promise. Life. Honor the father and your mother. Verse 3, that it may be well with thee and thou mayest live long on the earth. So you children, you have to be obedient to your fathers. You have to be obedient, even if you don't know them. They wasn't there. They still your father. You still got to be obedient. Being hard-headed and disrespectful, you're going to get judged and you're going to die. So, again, guide your children. Shalom.